Wicked hearts have sweetest smiles. Chapter 1. Canon Maldini, right hand and the most treasured substitute of second prince and Prime Minister Schneizel Britannia, was dead. Assassinated by a traitor within their own ranks, who also managed to escape after the murder. Now the burden to replace that loyal servant and stand at the prince's side fell on her. She stood in front of the minister's room, nervous and uneasy because it was the first time she met him. She had heard a lot of him, though. That he was handsome, blond with blue-violet eyes, and the most enchanting smile of all the royal brothers. Cunning with high intelligence, not easy to look through, deciding wisely to not reveal his true intentions or the nature of his character. Always wearing a mask, to put it simply. After his father, Charles C. Britannia, he was one of the mightiest men in this entire world, one of those who pulled the strings behind the scenes. The door opened and mentioned prince stepped out with a kind smile that flattered his lips.
Ah, so you are my new assistant, I take it?
She blushed lightly when he stared into her eyes, but then bowed in an instant and introduced herself.
My name is Aveline LaCroix, and it is a great honor to get to know you, Prince Schneizel.
The pleasure is all mine, Miss LaCroix. Please, this way.
With these words he started moving along the bright corridor, and she followed him without hesitating.
Your Highness?
Yes?
She waited a bit so that he interrupted walking.
Miss LaCroix?
He raised his eyebrow in expectation.
I just wanted to say that I'm deeply sorry for your loss. If there's anything I can do, please let me know immediately.
Aveline expected to see at least a bit of sadness or heartsickness, but there was no such thing. His face still had a calm and kind expression, as if it had not changed in the last few minutes.
Thank you very much for your sympathy.
He gave her a little smile and continued going. The first day had exhausted her, and she felt very dizzy when she finally arrived at her room in the servants' quarters. She had set up several appointments for Prince Schneizel, attended some meetings with officers of high rank, and also joined him when having lunch with the Princesses Cornelia and Euphemia Britannia. It was so strange to sit with members of the royal family and listen to their talk while eating food she normally never had access to. Not that she was poor or anything similar, but those plates were so exotic that it would be pure luck to find them in a common store in the Britannian Empire. She sighed as she sat down on the bed and put aside some strands of her shiny brown hair by driving through it with one hand. Aveline was happy and more than thankful to serve such a noble and eminently respectable man like Prince Schneizel, but she also had that odd feeling in her chest that tried to pull her down. That strange presentiment which, now that she found work that seemed to satisfy her, someone or something would try to steal it from her. Maybe she did not even deserve this. She shook her head in anger over herself and laid back. She was not a noble in particular, but her family was seen as worthy to operate with the royal members of the empire. Her mother, who had died many years ago, had been a reputable tailoress. She had been much appreciated by all the royal family, until the day she lost her life when she got shot by an 11 in a terrible accident. Aveline had missed her ever since, for her father had never really cared for her. He was a common man with no special skill and an ordinary job. In some moments, when Aveline was truly honest to herself, she admitted that she somehow hated him. The only thing he knew about were the nightmare frames she always had admired since being a young girl. Possessing one and leading wars in the field of combat was a secret desire of her. Again she sighed shortly and went through the meetings and appointments she had tomorrow. A ball was meant to be held within the next days to celebrate the knightship of Suzaku Kururugi, who had been elected to serve for the young princess Euphemia. So much to do in so little time. In addition, she also had to find a date for His Highness to accompany him to the festivity. He hadn't spoken with Aveline about that yet, and so she was unable to plan something or even search for a girl that matched his taste. After some minutes of going through possible attendances, weariness overcame her without warning and let her glide into a dreamless sleep. The following day came quick, and it was almost noon when Aveline found herself at the desk, holding her face in her hands while staring motionless on the list before her. Until now, the only thing she had done was receiving acceptances or refusals for the ball and calling those nobles who hadn't given either of it yet. It was a dull work which required no skill at all, but it still drained her energy as if she had run the whole morning.
Miss LaCroix, why don't you interrupt the task at hand and take a little break? You've been working since before sunrise, and I'm sure a small rest won't do any harm.
Prince Schneizel, who sat in the same office as she did, glanced at her with an honestly caring smile, rose up to his feet, and came over to her.
You could take a walk in the garden. It's still quite warm for this time of year, and some fresh air would do you good, I assure you.
Her cheeks turned rosy in an instant, for she still considered his treatment as highly noble and very uncommon for someone of his reputation and rank.
It is very kind of you, Your Highness, but as I understood, this event is of much importance, and I do not intend to delay anything if it is not absolutely necessary.
She answered, trying to impress and operate dutifully and firmly. For a split second there was a hint of surprise in his face, but it vanished as fast as it had come. He had not expected her to be as duteous as her predecessor Canon Maldini. He tilted his head with an even brighter smile and said,
Is it still a no if I offer to accompany you?
She opened her mouth to respond something, but all that originated from it was dumbfounded stuttering. He suppressed a giggle and waited patiently for her reply.
It would be a great honor for me, Your Highness. I could never refuse such an offer.
They took a leave, and only minutes later they walked along a small path in the bright blooming garden. Red and white roses entwined around the slim pillars of the path's canopy. Luminous sunshine heated up the air, while the chilly breeze cooled it down again.
It really is beautiful. Thank you for leading me here, Your Highness.
There is no need to be. Besides, I even had to use all of my persuasion skills on you, just to join me,
he said jokingly, and gave her another warm smile. She giggled shyly and hoped that he didn't notice her ongoing nervousness. Aveline usually was not the type of woman to get excited quickly, but Prince Schneizel was after all an important member of the royal family, as well as he was highly attractive, and she couldn't allow herself to be unprofessional when around him.
Anyway, tell me, Miss LaCroix, what do you think about my sister's choice of giving knighthood to Suzaku Kururugi?
I do not think I'm in the position to...
Don't you worry. This conversation will, of course, stay just between the two of us.
He interrupted and winked at her.
Well, he is ace pilot and one of the best soldiers at the time being. No one knows better how to operate with nightmare frames than Private Kururugi. He's an honorable man, extremely kind, and, as far as I know, above the ordinary loyal. In addition, he's also Japanese. This fact greatly serves the Empire to keep the impression of representing unity between the Japanese and the Britannian.
She ended and held her breath, not daring to look at the prince. He had asked her to speak the truth, but she had been a bit bold.
Thank you for giving me your honest opinion in this matter. I can only agree, her choice may have been precipitant, but it indeed does a huge service to the Empire.
Aveline let out a silent sigh of relief. For a few minutes they just walked without losing any words, solely relishing the sunlight caressing their skin.
Do we have any crucial tasks today that is still outstanding?
She took out the small calendar she always had with her and flew over the huge amount of meetings.
Yes, there is indeed an issue that is quite urgent and has to be attended without delay in less than 2 hours.
What is it?
We are gathering with the Earl Lloyd Asplin to discuss the advanced nightmare frames. He sounded quite desperate when he asked for this get-together.
The prince let his delicate, slim fingers glide through a few strands of his subtle blonde hair, as if he was thinking about something.
Fair enough. We should head back to the office, for I still have a lot of paperwork that awaits me.
Of course. Right away.
They turned around and went back the same way they had come from. Suddenly, the phone in his pocket rang, and he answered without hesitation.
Yes.
His voice returned to its usual objective and rather cold tone.
Of course. I understand. I will be there within a minute.
He put the phone back into his pocket and looked at her again.
My apologies, but I'm needed to issue a statement, for my father is absent and cannot handle this affair right now.
Of course, Your Highness. I'll return to my desk in the meantime.
She bowed briefly and watched him turn around.
Oh, Your Highness? One more thing. I need to know who you prefer as a companion for the ball.
You, of course.
He answered, as if taken for granted.
What?
She stuttered.
Who could be a better companion than my lovely secretary?
Prince Schneizel uncovered his brilliant white teeth, nodded to give point to his words, and disappeared within the huge building.